So this video is going to be a bit different. I'm going to deviate from talking about the science and get a little bit into the how-to side of things. So recently myself, my husband Matt, and our friend Larry rode the White Rim Trail, an iconic 100-mile ride through the desert in Canyonlands National Park. The good news about this ride is that it starts with a fun descent down to the White Rim. The bad news is that it ends with a steep climb back up to the start. But more on that later. The other challenge is that there are no places on the way to refill water bottles or to restock food. This means you have to carry enough food and water for the entire ride. Now most people do this as a 3 to 5 day supported ride, while others do it in a day. Given that we were at the height of our Ironman training, we decided to do it in a day, and that this would be a fun way to get in a long ride. Okay, a really long ride. In the previous video, I talked about carbohydrate intakes during racing and training to optimize performance and recovery. So do I actually follow my own advice? My goal for this ride was to A, get in some miles, and B, recover as best as I could, given that I would be diving right back into another 20-hour training week. The White Rim circumnavigates the island mesa high above the Colorado and Green Rivers. It is a jeep road, and to be honest, not my favorite type of riding. I much prefer technical, more challenging trails or flowy, fast single track. But the scenery along this route is, well, in a word, epic. The last 100-mile mountain bike ride I did was a few years ago. Okay, quite a few years ago, and that was the Level 100. Matt, as I found out on this trip, has never done 100 miles on his mountain bike. For Larry, well, he just starts warming up at around 100 miles, which is kind of scary if you think about it. But Larry recently did the Tour Divide, a 2,700-mile race that starts in Banff, Canada, and ends at the Mexican-US border. Like I said, he just starts to warm up after 100 miles. And oh, by the way, he is in his 60s.
You know, doing 100 miles around this thing, nothing but grateful.
To start this ride, we parked at the intersection of Mineral Bottom Road and Highway 313.
Let's do it.
The White Rim ride can be done clockwise or counterclockwise. We chose clockwise. And so we headed up Highway 313 to the park entrance. Once we entered the park, we headed down Schaefer Road. Schaefer Road is a fun descent offering sweeping views of Canyonlands National Park. It snakes down to the White Rim, but it is not a place where you want your brakes to fail. From the bottom of Schaefer, the route traverses the top of the White Rim and Sandstone Formation and offers expansive views of rock pinnacles, canyons to the left, steep cliffs to the right. Around every corner, it seems, there is something new and amazing to see. Like I said, the views are epic. It's hard not to want to stop and take 1,000 photos. In addition to the views, the White Rim offers up fast rolling sections, slick rock, steep climbs, rocky descents, sandy sections, and lots of dust. So tip number 1, if you decide to do this, bring extra chain link. At about the halfway point, there's a steep climb called Murphy's Hogback, followed by a rough and rocky descent. Soon after this, we stopped for lunch. By the way, there are really no bad spots on this route to stop for a break. At 70 miles, the road drops down close to the river, which we followed for quite a ways. And then finally at around 88 miles, there it was, the steep climb back out of the park.
This is kind of soul-destroying.
By this point, my chamois was feeling like sandpaper. Oh wait, actually it was more like a cheese grater. So tip number 2, apply generous amounts of chamois cream, which of course I forgot to bring. This climb has lots of hairpins and seems to go up and up forever. But little did I know that once at the top, there would be more climbing to come. Once we got to the top, I thought, great, home stretch, not much further, piece of cake. But alas, that final road climb seemingly went on forever. It wasn't super steep and was only about 10 miles, but it felt like 50. The boys were smelling the barn and they kept dropping me. I was quickly getting separated from my will to go on. Nevertheless, all things come to an end, and about 10 hours after heading out, we arrived back at the car, tired but happy. So what and how much did I eat during the ride? In the days before the ride, I set to work making food. For long rides or runs like this, I try to think about things to eat that are A, easy to digest, and B, are appealing to eat. For these long events, eating can sometimes feel like force feeding. I don't know about you, but I tend to lose my appetite and I really have to make myself eat. So having foods that are tasty and appetizing helps. First, I made some energy balls, thanks to nutritionist Lilia Volkas for the recipe and to Emily Chu for sharing it. See link below for the website and recipe. Then I made some wraps. Wraps are easy to carry and don't fall apart like sandwiches. I made some peanut butter and jelly ones, and some with rice and homemade pesto. Adding pesto is a good way to sneak in some leafy greens. I then made spring rolls with rice noodles and peanut sauce. I think next time I would make noodles made from black rice, as they are probably a bit more nutritious. I also made some waffles using whole grain flour, bananas, chia seeds, and applesauce. Noodles and these waffles were my favorite foods during the Level 100 run and were easy on my gut. So I have a good track record with these foods. And oh, by the way, waffles are also the food of choice for Courtney Walters, one of the top female ultra runners in the world, so I think I'm in good company with these. I also included some gels, as these are easy to carry. Along with all the food, I had a full Camelback plus 4 bottles of energy drink. Yes, that pack was pretty darn heavy. How many calories was I able to ingest? So for 9.3 hours of riding, that works out to a little over 300 calories per hour. Considering we were limited by carrying capacity, I feel pretty good about this, even though it didn't make it to the 480 calories per hour that I mentioned in my previous video. Now, the ride was relatively low intensity, mostly zones 1 and 2, so I'm not sure if getting 480 calories would have been that much more helpful. Had I been racing that 100 miles, I probably would eat less food, more processed forms of carbohydrate like bulks and gels, and aim for a higher intake. All told, I would say that the waffles, noodles, and energy balls were my favorites. The rice wraps were pretty good, the PB&J were a little bit on the dry side. So there you have it. How well did I recover? Well, the next day we did a 5-mile trail run, and I actually felt really good, far better than I expected. By Wednesday, I felt recovered enough to do a bike ride followed by some running intervals. I was able to get in another 19-hour training week, ending with a half marathon trail race where I felt really good. So hopefully this gives you some ideas of what to eat during a long duration, low intensity ride. Thanks for watching, and in the next video I promise I will cover training with low carbohydrate availability and address the question as to whether that is beneficial to performance or not.